All right, good evening. I'd like to call to order the Planning Commission work session for Monday, December 10th, 2018. Roll call, please.
Valeri,
Here.
Burrell,
Here.
James,
Here.
Shannon,
Here.
Cottle.
Here. I'll tell you what, let's just pledge and have a moment of silence, and then we will jump into our agenda. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, a moment of silence. All right, thank you. You may be seated. All right. So tonight we're going to discuss the comp plan. So, ma'am, you are up.
Okay.
You're good.
I can look them over here.
Yeah, we can share.
Thank you.
And we,
Okay.
well, before we get started, we're still on for next Monday at 7, correct? A regular meeting?
Yes, we are, and also if you drove past the old BB&T Bank building, you would have seen we have a public notice that's been posted. So we will have a public hearing for a special use permit for the funeral home at that location. This is specifically for the use, and all of the public's been invited to come out at 7, give their comments as necessary.
Okay.
This is for the crematorium or for the funeral home itself?
For the funeral home itself,
And that requires an SUP?
it does. It is a special use permit in that zone.
Because of the zoning.
Yes.
Got it.
So it was publicly noticed last week as well as this week in the paper. The sign was posted, and I plan to have your packets out to you by Wednesday. So you guys have ample time to review, ask me questions,
Okay.
meet with me.
Okay.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's
So-
jump right into this.
What I've prepared in the beginning of your packet this month is just a little kind of worksheet to help us define why we're doing the citizen survey. So tonight's meeting, we discussed that we would go through a draft of a citizen survey, come up with what questions we want to ask, and then go ahead and get it ready so it can go out in the new year. So this is kind of a little, I guess, exercise in helping us define why we're doing it, what do we want to achieve from it, and how are we going to use it towards the comprehensive plan. But for those of you who are a little newer to planning or local government, I have prepared a little bit of a what is a comprehensive plan, how should it be used, as well as what is a successful framework for a comprehensive plan. So was everybody able to take a chance to read through it? And okay, why don't we just start with what our goals are for the citizen survey? I attached the old survey. My feelings on the old survey, this is not a typical citizen survey that you would send out for planning purposes. This isn't necessarily what you want to gauge everything the community has to say for your comprehensive plan. Some of it can relate to the comprehensive plan, but the 2006 survey seemed to be more of a general, how do you feel about your town and the services that you receive. So I drafted several questions on page 5 and 6 on the general, I live in town and here's how I feel, but also I tried to start a little bit more with the lifestyle. So our comprehensive plan gives us an opportunity to plan out our future, where we see our town going in 5, 10, 20 years. So this is where the lifestyle section will come into play, and I think we can definitely expand on what's here and go through and come up with questions that 20 years down the road, you know, what do our residents, do they expect to still be here? Do they expect to have services that when they age, you know, they can age into those services, things like that. And then also for the comprehensive plan, I tossed in some discussion, not much, but some on the traffic control, the road conditions, things like that. So with a comprehensive plan, we also are gonna be tasked with coming up with a capital improvement plan, a CIP. And so this is where we kind of put together our wish list, but also things that need to be done in the town. And so this is where we start to plan for them, budget for them, and they typically coincide with our comprehensive plan and what the council has in their goals for each fiscal year. So that's where I've started, but let's go back to what our main goal, what questions do we want answered in our citizen survey? I started with, we want to be able to define who we are, where we want to go, and how we plan to get there. This is something that we can gauge from citizen workshops, charrettes. I think having a section for the citizens to tell us about themselves or offer up other comments, I think we can review those and come up with a good, this would be more of an introduction to our comp plan. Here's who we are and where we see ourselves. Maybe a mission statement, if you want to call it that, a vision statement. You guys are a quiet bunch tonight.
I would just say whatever questions we do, that we really pare it down, because a lot of people, and I'm like this, I can't speak for the rest, but you get a survey, and the first thing I do is I look to see how long this is going to take me and how many questions there are.
Yep.
And I'm a lot more inclined to answer something that's brief as opposed to a multi-page survey. So anything we can do to maybe ask one good question in lieu of 3 or 4.
Okay.
Just really be succinct in what we ask. I don't know what your all's thoughts are, but
Oh, I agree.
to me,
Makes sense.
I get surveys all the time, and that is one of the things I look at. I mean, I like to participate in the surveys, but I'm not going to spend an hour on a survey. It's too much of my time. I got too many other things going on.
right,
So, yeah, the fewer questions better, but they got to be home run questions.
Right.
Really, what we're trying to develop with a comprehensive plan, their input needs to be what we're looking at for that comprehensive plan. Does that make sense? I mean, it's got to be directed toward that, so.
all right, well, how about we do this? We go to packet page 5, go through the proposed survey questions, and let's just take them one at a time, and let's just kind of get consensus. At least the first go through stays or goes, and then see what happens if it's okay with you all, since she's already listed them out.
Yeah.
And then see where we end up, and then maybe we could write and
Absolutely.
Okay.
so
I'll start with the first one. I debated putting this one in here. How long have you lived in the town of Haymarket? In my opinion, as a planner, I don't think it matters how long you've lived somewhere. You're part of the community, so it shouldn't matter. It should matter that you're here now and you're engaging. So I was thinking we should take this one out. If you want to ask anything about living in town, you could say, what neighborhood do you live in? What street do you live off of? So you can gauge that way, but I don't think it's necessary to know how long you've lived here. Do you guys have the,
I agree with that.
Yep,
okay.
so we'll just strike that one. Now, let me just ask a question. Are these going to be open-ended questions, or are we going to have some bubble here type thing?
So I think some of them we can have a bubble here, A, B, C, D. But I think some of them you do want to leave open-ended, because if you give them an answer that they have to fit their opinion into that answer, you don't always get the same
Right.
response. So, for instance, what are the top reasons you moved to town? I could list 15, but Nick's could be, 16 through 20, and Steve could have another 5. So I think it could be totally different on why you moved here. Whereas, though, do you feel that you're informed? Yes or no? If yes, how did you become informed about meetings? Those we can certainly provide quick, circle, and that'll help speed up how long it takes to do the survey.
You can always say, instead of what are the top reasons, what was your reason for moving here? It's one question. I mean, if you wanted to go that way, I don't know.
Affordability.
Yeah, I look at it,
Okay.
and this is why I think that's a good question, and say the top reason, or the top 2 reasons, or whatever. You don't want to leave it open-ended so they come up with 20 different things, because some people could. We looked at it as affordability, and the fact that the little small town feel. That's why my wife and I moved here. And I think that's important as we go toward this comprehensive plan. Again, when we get into the walkability of the town and what we're doing as far as building and stuff like that. So, I mean, that would be my, what are the top 2 reasons, or the top reason, however you want to do it. So,
How does top 3 sound?
that's
I
fine.
think that gives a good, it could be
Works.
schools,
Wiggle room.
affordability, small town.
Then maybe a spot for other,
Mhm.
that they could write in, something
Okay.
we can think of.
Yeah, others always good on the survey.
Right. Something that we all, we got our group think or perspective, but someone else brings in something completely different that you're like, oh, wow, we didn't consider that.
Well, I think
Agree.
it's supposed to be an open-ended, so you
Make
can
it
kind of
open.
write in what you want rather than us giving, a list of reasons.
Well, I thought we were going to do
Oh,
like
no,
top
I don't
3 with a
think
list
this
and
is,
then a
yeah, I meant
other.
to have that one open-ended.
100% open-ended?
Yeah, but for that
Limit
particular
to
one,
3.
I guess what we could do is give examples on the side, just be like, walkability, affordability, jobs kind of thing, so that, people have like an idea of what they want or what they want to write.
Yeah, I just think when you're doing the statistics later, there might be like 3 or 4 that are similar, and you're like, what do they mean by that? So affordability or, something similar to that. Like,
Yeah.
everyone has their own way of writing something.
Yeah.
So if you had a list of just like the top, like 10 things that are like a normal survey you would have on that question, affordability or whatever.
and they can.
And then they can
They can
spot
rank them 1,
other
2,
for,
3.
if they want to write, other thing. And it'd be better for grabbing, and actually when you have, how many we had last time? It was something like 160 or 200 of these. Because someone's got to go through them after. You just don't want that to be
Yeah.
hard for the person who's going to be doing it. If it's us, then it's us. So we probably want to make it easier, but giving an opportunity to be open-ended as well. But I just think sometimes you can be, people can say the same thing, but you're like, you can't ask them later, right? You can't
Yeah.
go find them.
It could be too open-ended to not actually give us an answer. That's fair.
Okay. Next question, do you feel you were informed about what is going on within the town? This has come up at a lot of our meetings in citizens' time, not only, maybe not this exact group, but with our council, ARB. So I definitely wanted to gauge here. I think it is something that, while maybe it doesn't go exactly into the comprehensive plan, it is something that we as a whole can work on, how we get our information out there. So this is more of we're sending out a survey to everybody who lives in town. There's a couple questions, let's just add in there for the sake of making our town better. I propose the first one, do you feel you're informed, is a yes or a no? And if yes, then you have the 5 options below. And the reason I propose these are the main media outlets or outlets that we use here as town staff to get our information out there. The only others that I could think of were when we post our agendas at Chick-fil-A on those community boards, or if we happen to have them on a sign out here or a public notice. So I still provided the other section, but I feel comfortable with these 5 options. Do you guys have any suggestions?
Well, if they say no, then should you say why not as well? They could explain why they don't feel like they're informed. Because if they probably, I just don't look for it, then we know that it's not really us communicating. It's just if they're just not really caring about it.
Maybe they're not looking at these particular
Yeah.
avenues, right?
Okay. Everybody good with that one?
Yep.
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 Okay. Do you attend the town council meetings? So this was a pullover from the last survey. I can change it to be, do you attend the town meetings? Do you attend planning commission meetings? Most of the time, if you're a citizen, you're new to town, you're probably most likely gonna go to a town council meeting first. I know that's not always the case, but, how do you guys feel about this one?
So,
Yeah.
I would say, if they say no, what impact does that have on what we're trying to do, right? It's available to them, the meetings are recorded and posted online, but if they say no, is that gonna change something about how we do them, how we schedule them, or any of that stuff?
No, I don't think it will. I think it'll just show us maybe what percentage of our population has an interest but isn't able to come due to scheduling, or they come, or no, they don't come. So I think it'll just break down a percentage of who says they come, and I think
Yeah, I
that's-
don't know how many people know about the ARB. I don't know how many people know about Planning Commission. Most people know there's a town council, but I don't know, just do you attend town meetings, in parentheses, i.e. ARB, Planning Commission,
Okay.
town council? Just, I mean, because it's amazing that, heck, when I moved in, I didn't know there was an ARB. I found out because I had to come up here for my deck and my fence and the shed and stuff like that. I didn't know there was an ARB. So I'm just saying,
Also a correction, it says if yes, do you watch the meeting online? I think it should be if no.
Okay.
And at the beginning of this, would it be a good idea to have like, the person's age to try to see what the demographics are? It'd be interesting to know the difference between what the, 20 to 40s thing, just the age demographics.
So wasn't that, I imagine that first question that we struck out, that was probably trying to solicit that kind of information without directly asking, like, what's your age range?
No, I just think,
I don't think so. I think it
people
was
just
just,
how long you've lived here. I'm with you. It doesn't matter whether you've lived here a week or 30 years. We're all citizens.
it's different perspectives. We've got the folks that's lived here as long as Matt or some of the others. They probably have a different perspective, because when they moved here, a lot of this wasn't here.
None of it was
The-
here.
Those of us newbies, like me and you, Tony, moving in here in the last 2 or 3 years, we have a whole different perspective than what Matt did, or Vice Mayor Edwards, or Mayor Leak, or anybody, or even a lot of our citizens. So,
And we do have some citizens who were born and raised and never left, so entirely different.
we have citizens who lived here 50 years,
Yeah.
right here on Fayette.
I just think the demographics, like if we find that, let's say in the 20 and 30 age group, no one, or where it would be helpful is a very small percentage attends meetings, where the older, then somehow we need to target.
The younger,
The
if they're not
younger.
attending. I think the
I think it's
age
good
is important.
information.
I'm not so sure about the sex or anything else, but I think age would be important. I wouldn't have problems with that.
Okay.
I mean, it's just simple, just circle 20s or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it would kind of set the stage for this information we're capturing.
Okay. You guys ready for the next one?
I like that one, the next one.
Do you have an interest in serving on a board or getting involved in the town? If yes, what interests you? So another thing I was thinking here, as we develop our comp plan, I think we'll come up with a lot of really great ideas that we want to start working on, including really get going on the park, things like that. So I think there's an opportunity for committees. We have an events committee that gets together during the week and we work on our town events. So I think this could even be a good place to gauge interest that maybe they don't want to serve on a board, but they would be willing to volunteer in another capacity. So I was trying to think, I mean, I can put something as simple as, if you don't wish to serve on a board, you know, how would you want to serve your time? That doesn't sound right, but
Yeah.
you get what I mean.
Right.
You know,
Like
do
you
you
have
want
to
to
do
be on a
something.
committee? Do you want to volunteer in the town, but you don't know how to get involved? Things like that, because with our museum, I think there's opportunity there, the park, even
Yeah.
coming in town hall and helping to do certain things, but not be up on the dais. I think the dais can even scare and intimidate some people.
It does me.
Yeah. Next question.
I think going back to that, getting involved in the town, I think it's also an aspect of maybe disseminating the information as to how they can get involved. Like, do they know where they can get that information, you know?
Let me ask you, just out of curiosity, how did you new folks get involved? What was your avenue of coming in?
Tony because of me. Me because I came up to the ARB, and actually, Julie and I attended an event up here for Sergeant, what's the wounded warrior here that built the house on Leitner? Who is it? Yes. So Julie and I attended a function because we saw that was going on and wanted to be part of it. And that's when I met the mayor and the council at the time and all. And then when I show up at the ARB, all of a sudden, a couple of them are striking up conversations with me, talking to me a little bit about the town. I asked some questions and stuff. And then right away, it was like, are you interested in serving on the planning commission or the ARB? Let me check. And that's how I got involved. I recruited Tony there because being a neighbor and being a smart guy, and I just, you know, so I kind of invited, I don't know how much Tony knew about it before that, but
Yeah, not much.
But I think that's what's, I think you have an important point is, I think, I look, and this is not a knock on anybody on this dais, for the ARB, the council, or the planning commission, but we have to go out and recruit for the most part. We don't really have that many people, I don't think, that come to us and say, I want to serve. And that would be nice if we did. I mean, I love the idea that I talked to Tony and recommended Tony come up here because I knew what we were going to get. And you don't know what you don't know. Some people could be want to volunteer for the wrong reason, but at the same time, I like the idea to have volunteers and they can go through interviews or whatever. But the fact that we really don't have any volunteers, we have to go out and kind of seek volunteers. I think it's because some people don't know. They don't know what they don't know.
All right. Let me ask you this, just piggyback on that. Like when we do, you know, town functions like the hot Christmas and holiday and Haymarket Day, would it be worthwhile to have like a volunteer booth and just, you know, at all these events, you know, you want to get involved, you know?
Absolutely. I think it would also be a wonderful time to advertise, say we have a parks committee group or a historic committee, to have somebody there who can say, join our, you know, this little committee group, here's what we do, and here's what our goal is. And since we don't have that right now, I think it's hard to have a volunteer group. At Haymarket Day, we typically would have our town council tent out, and that's an opportunity for you to come up and just learn about the town. So we provide maps, usually somebody sits there and will discuss with you. We always, you know, advertise our groups, how you can get involved, things like that. But right now we lack some of those committees, so it's hard to say volunteer with the town, and they say, well, what am I gonna do?
I'm just thinking like if we had a master calendar, which I'm sure we have, of all the town get-togethers throughout the year, like National Night Out, bike safety, et cetera, and we said, okay, we as a planning commission are going to take this night, we'll just show up, and as people come out and say, hey, we're on the planning commission, here's basically what we do, but there's also other areas that you may be interested in, like the architectural side, or just, and if every board did that strategically throughout the year, even if everybody took one, because I really think that's how people are going to get involved. Because most people are going to use, I'm too busy, I don't know what's going on, and, I mean, we have a website. I'm not saying we can't do a better job, but still, there is an onus on the people to want to get involved, if that makes sense.
You're going to go to the website, it's going to be a conscious effort to go to it, but if you're there in a booth and someone's there, you can just talk and get the
Right.
personal, touch on it, and people will be like, oh, okay, and they learn more about it. So we even had like a little,
Just an idea.
yeah, if you had a whole list of what's available, because I didn't know, you said events planning committee? You guys do that? Yeah, I didn't know that. And so,
Yeah, and the thing is,
that's my bad, but.
I think we need to educate and put it out there, but it's just like when we have, if citizens show up and say, what, they, the town planner didn't, or whoever, they didn't put this notice out in advance or whatever, well, it was out. They didn't seek it, they didn't see it, because they don't get on the social media, or they, but I think we can only do what we can do is put the information out there. Matt, I like the idea of like Haymarket Day or different events that we have a couple of us maybe around that they can say, hey, what is the ARB? Well, let me tell you what the ARB does, and have somebody from the ARB just kind of talk to it and play, you know what I mean? Just kind of,
Yeah, it's just an idea.
Yeah, it was like a 30-second elevator speech on all of it, just on a fact sheet. You could even hand it out to people, and just as long as you're there and you can talk to them more, or you can just hand it out and people can digest it later. But then they have a point of contact to come back to later and be like, you know what, maybe I'll contact
Yeah.
Emily or whomever to find out more information on it and
And
see
we
how they
just-
get involved.
we just have to be careful. I mean, we have to, it's got to be clear because they have to live in the town.
Right.
So, I mean, that has to be a caveat there somehow, because I know we get a lot of people come to our meetings that live outside of Haymarket, the postal zone.
Right.
Because they like to come to our meetings, they support Doggy Day Out or whatever.
Well, another confusing thing is people live in Haymarket, but they don't live in the town of Haymarket.
And that's why the caveat, we really have to explain that. You have to live within the corporate limits.
Right.
I don't think that'll
to
actually
serve.
stop though, right? Like, I mean, to serve on a board, but not necessarily volunteer. Right, so I
we have
think, yeah.
So people who join our events committee and they come help us with certain planning aspects for that, they don't live in the town. They are either business people in the community or they're just volunteers in the community, so that's how they engage. But question, in the most recent newsletter that we sent out, beginning of
The
December?
September one, there was
September.
a blurb that you wrote, Matt, about the planning commission, and I had Ken Larson write
I
something
saw
about
that.
the ARB.
Yeah.
Was that something that you guys saw? Did you find it
I think that was
effective?
the-
Yeah,
Are those mailed out? Are those mailed out, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't ever receive those, I don't think. Either my kids take them and probably throw them away.
Well, we
That's
did
another
put a
problem.
kids' corner
That
in
paper
there, so
airplane that you
Yeah.
see around the
They
house.
could be doing the word search in there.
No, I
but-
thought it was good if people read it. Not that I wrote something, but at least it mentioned what we did.
I agree.
Like, yeah, and there's about 8 pages. We've sent about 2
I'll
or
have
3
to-
out, so I would check. Shelley will grab an example, but what we're trying to do is each quarter or at least biannually get that out there. And then what we do is on a side column, we have the next 3 months of all of our meeting dates
Right.
put in. And then if there's any interest, they can always go to our website to learn more, things like that. So I didn't know if you guys received them, read them, or is it
I read them.
Yes
junk
and yes,
mail?
yeah.
The ARB and the planning commission little paragraph is not in this one, it's in the September one. This is just for the Christmas event. Did everybody else?
Wow, I don't think I've ever seen this. My kids steal them.
Yeah, I tell you too, these little push-outs we get that the police do and
Oh, the push to text?
push to text, those are very effective.
So,
They're very effective. I think it's one of the best way.
But you gotta sign up
another-
for it, right? I mean, you can only,
Right, and another
database.
thing we discussed is the group that runs that for us, they've given us the option to create one that's like Haymarket events or Haymarket Council, things like that, so that we can do more push to text that are specific on the events or just the council, things like that. So we've been toying around with it. We haven't actually done it yet because we don't know exactly, do we have the audience for it at the moment?
Right now, it's just a general push to text and anything that's.
So,
I think
These are
any-
good. These
Yeah.
are good.
All right, so do you have an interest in serving on a board or getting involved in the town?
I'll work on that question along with tailoring it more towards volunteering and kind of getting some of the information out there of how you can volunteer and what they would be interested in volunteering for. So I'll work on that. Next question. Okay, this one was in the last survey. I don't find it necessary to have in here if you voted in the last town election or not, unless this is something that the council truly wishes to gauge participation or.
wouldn't you see that from the votes, though?
We
I
already
mean,
have that
Yes,
information.
yes, this is true.
so you know how many are eligible,
Mhm.
and
How
then
many
you counted
serve?
how many, yeah. You could do the statistic with that. That probably one is probably not necessary.
Strike it.
Yeah, I would.
So what do you think is the primary issue facing the town? So I toyed around with, do we give them options that are all related to planning and what would be in the comprehensive plan? So it could be traffic, it could be development, things like that. I know in some of the other jurisdictions, not quite for us, but it's water shortage. They operate their own water services. So things like that. Or do we let the public tell us what is the thing that keeps them up at night as the primary issue?
I think if you leave it open-ended, you're going to get, if you
You
have
can get an essay.
200 surveys, you're going to have 200 different answers. I think, we come up with some basic issues. What do you think is the primary issue facing? I don't know, the building, new building or whatever. I mean, I think we ought to come up with several, maybe more than several, but let them choose and let them even rank them or whatever. I think if you leave it open-ended,
Won't be usable data, because they'll be all over the
Yeah.
place.
And-
You can't bin them to like things.
and we don't want, certainly wouldn't want anybody to take this wrong, we don't want it to be a bitch session. You know what I mean? Or complaints that we want constructive feedback. What do our citizens really feel we need to do to make this town better?
Okay.
And, I mean, that's just my feeling, not just, it's not a gripe, it needs to be constructive in nature, my feeling.
And it's typically, every time something comes before our board, if you will, it's always traffic, schools, walkability. It's the same common thread, which we really don't control the schools. We don't have really any say in the schools. And in some respects, we really don't have a whole lot of say in the traffic. There's a lot of things that people complain about that are out of our, so I think to Steve's point from here, and what can we effectively do with your feedback to make it better?
So would that be something that we should maybe make the question a little more focused? And that instead of saying, what's your primary issue, we look at what we see as the issue as a planning commission, what we want to work on, and ask the question in such a way that, they have the options to pick what they see is a bigger issue, and we use that as a guiding light to work on something. Does that make
So-
sense?
What we could do, going off of that idea, is we come up with, let's say, 5 items: walkability, economic development, the town park, blight
Blight.
control, and then maybe one more. So it's maybe 5 objectives that we all want to work on.
And that we control.
And we control.
Right.
So it
Exactly.
takes
That's what's
traffic
key.
out, it
Yeah.
takes schools out, development, we're pretty much there. We have, 20 acres coming in, and that's about the only property left. So then we can pose the question, with the 5 issues presented, and then 1 through 5,
Yeah.
please rank them
Yeah.
in most important to least important
Yeah.
to you.
Exactly.
Right.
I
That's what I was
think that's better.
Okay, let's come up with our 5 issues.
I mean, I think you kind of just
I
named
think
them.
you just
Yeah.
listed them,
And I think, if,
because we control, pretty much control.
Economic
So-
development, blight, walkability.
So walkability does have a tie into traffic, though. I mean,
And it
because if
does-
we are able to plan so people are walking versus driving, because if they don't feel safe walking,
Yeah.
therefore they're going to drive, right?
I think
So parking.
walkability, though, to the, I mean, traffic, but like crosswalks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, that's traffic related, but it's,
finishing off our own sidewalks.
I mean, that's.
Right, so that's what we can control, and so therefore, hey, I'd rather walk now than drive to the end of town. I might actually walk from I'm all the way in the end, right, by QBE. I might walk all the way down by the end of the street, down to Sheets,
Right.
and get a hot dog and walk back.
And the other thing even is connectivity to the other networks of sidewalks and trails, because if you can come down to
Right.
Jefferson Street, and if you can walk all the way to Heathcote, then you're on a whole
Yeah.
shared use path,
Mhm.
and that's a game changer for people who like to get out and ride bikes or things like that.
for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be just the main strip, right? I mean,
So why don't on each one of them, I put parentheses, for example, economic development, bringing new business to town, walkability, finishing our sidewalks, things like that, so it engages them.
These
in
are things
what
we
we're
control
thinking.
too.
Exactly.
Blight.
I think something else to consider would be, I guess, what type of businesses, to bring in. Because, I mean, on both ends, we have some decent, like Walmart, and we've got Target on the other side. I'm like, are we going to try to be a little bit more of the smaller community niche type things, or do we want to bring in the chain stores, I think that was a large complaint before, right, when we were talking about the drive-throughs, where people were complaining, that was some of the complaints where we don't want to be any other town, right? We don't want to be a truck stop was their tagline, but maybe that could be a consideration somewhere in here to be, what would business development look like? Would it be chain stores, or would it be more individual?
What type of
Small
businesses
town,
would you like to see?
Right.
Again, they need to understand this is within our corporate limits. Fortunately, we don't have enough space to build, other large department stores or anything like that. So most of our areas, we only got several that's going to be left that can be built out.
And we can
So,
certainly, I think what it comes down to is making an attractive town for businesses to want to come. We can put in there that we want to welcome all mom and pops, but in reality, with the way the economy's going, are they gonna be able in 5 years to still be open or to come in?
I think asking what kind of businesses they'd like to see come into town.
Yeah. I think that might be like a
Maybe
separate
me-
question rather.
Yeah,
than-
yeah,
It's
no,
a
it'd be separate, but-
question.
Yeah.
So I have economic development, blight, walkability,
Sidewalks.
That's walkability.
Well, that's walkability.
Town park.
town park.
Town park, yeah. I think that's a big thing for younger families.
Yeah.
About playground and stuff.
Which you'll have next week to give the blessing for me to take to council in January.
What? Yeah.
So
That's
we're getting
exciting.
there. What was the 5th?
I think we didn't really pick a 5th, but maybe we should leave that one open-ended, say other, and then like leave a box for them to kind of put something, just in case we
could
didn't
think
cover
about-
something
Yeah, we could think about it
Yeah.
again.
later.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say community services, like your trash and recycling, but that's something,
But we don't.
Yeah.
I think that.
it's a
Yeah.
later question. Okay. And then they'll rank those 1 through 5. I put the question, if you could change one thing about the town, what would you change? This could
loaded question.
open.
be
It is a
It's
loaded
gonna be the
question.
blighted one.
Yes, so
I
I
would-
can strike.
My opinion is strike that one. I mean,
Okay.
I don't like barking dogs, but I have a barking dog. Yeah, you're going to come up with 500 different answers.
And again, let's just
Yeah.
I think we
pull
captured it
from
in the other
old
ones.
survey.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, no, 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 that's a
No, no,
good
I think-
idea, Emily.
think what
I'd
you-
rather see them here and us strike them than, but,
Gives us somewhere to at least start, right?
yep, absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
I think lifestyle would come in nicely under the one we just discussed, the primary issues, and I'm gonna come up with a better word for issue, because that means that we have problems.
Concerns
Let's
or
make
I
it-
was
conveniences, what,
A lot of times it's word choice
Yes.
dictates
Word
what
Oh, yeah.
type of
Mhm.
uh,
Absolutely.
responses you get. Oh, there's issues? Yeah, let me think, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So for lifestyle, what I was thinking here is we wanna know, are people using our sidewalks that we're trying to fix? Are people going to utilize the park? Are they gonna use the small things we put in, like the pet waste stations or the bike rack? Are
Mhm.
they gonna visit our museum that we've recently turned into something new? So things like that, we wanna know that the things that we're trying to do, they're getting out there and that they're using them and they're recognizing it and they understand this is a service provided to them. So this is all part of our long-term planning, with our comp plan is, what are we gonna do to continue to make our property in the town better? So I just started with some simple lifestyle questions. I am happy to all suggestions.
I like it. The first one though, I would probably, because that can be open-ended too, I'd probably say, daily, more than once, daily, or what, you know what I mean? Give them like 4 or 5 choices.
Daily, weekly, monthly,
Yeah,
never,
So I
we
think,
don't want.
to Steve's point, looking at pretty much each of these questions, it could be in kind of like that form where it's like, never, occasionally,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like a little bubble.
A range
chart or
rather
whatever,
than like an
range.
actual definite.
Okay. Are there any that you feel have been left off that need to be included? I'm gonna strike the last one.
Yeah, because
and-
that kind of goes back up to the one up there we struck. I think these are good, Emily.
Well, they can also be tailored each time we do the survey, so for 2019, right, things that were current initiatives, things that we've recently revamped and stuff like that.
Yeah, like if we get the
2020,
playground.
2021. yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Steve's playground.
My kids are waiting for that playground, by the way.
Yeah, so are mine, no pressure.
No pressure.
April.
Yeah.
So's my
It'll
wife,
happen.
so she can take all the kids out.
Yeah.
Go
I'll
play.
get them shovels to come help.
Put them on the camera
will.
from your house.
Yeah.
Now, the pet waste stations are only at the park, correct?
And across the street.
Okay.
So we have one here, we have 2 there, and then we actually have a 4th to be installed. So,
Do we want to
I was-
indicate that on here? You utilize pet waste stations located at boom, boom, boom,
Yeah, I
like
guess that's a
that,
good
or?
question to see whether or not they know where it's located.
yeah.
We use them at the park every
I'll put
day.
the
Yeah.
locations in, because also I know I think Green Hill Crossing maybe has their own.
They have their own.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, I think they have like 7. We're dog
You walk
walkers.
often.
We do. We walk daily.
Yeah, I will add those locations.
I think that's good. Those are good questions though for under lifestyle.
My favorite of recent is having someone tell me, I didn't know we had a town museum. That was a good one.
Yeah.
So, I figured we could work that in somehow.
What about that one, do you shop for local town businesses or use business, or how about, do you use businesses within the town's limits, or something like that? Because some people may look at this and go,
Let me say Gainesville's local.
what's a local?
Walmart's local.
They
and
may,
that's not even in the
they may
town.
not view Food Lion as local because it's a chain, whereas they might view, you know what I'm saying? Some
Yeah,
people look
agree.
at chain, I would just say to use town
Businesses
business
within the town.
within the town's limits.
Okay.
You have to define what the town limits are too.
Well,
Yeah.
I
How many
think,
people
I
know
think
that?
that needs, I would just say that may be part of an introduction.
Why
You know,
don't
what
I,
the survey is, a survey within our corporate limits from here to here, or however.
The other
Just-
thing they can do is create a simplified map to go in the corner that has on it, you know, a star by Sheets and a star by like QBE Cookies and Cream. Give them
Yeah.
2 endpoints
Right.
and then give them 2 on the other side
Yeah.
that they can easily recognize. And then that way, when they're thinking Walmart, they're like, oh, it stops at Sheets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Which I think most people go to Sheets anyway, so I think the answer to that question is usually just a yes. Which I think you're trying to, I mean, with the question, you're trying to gauge whether or not you use business, like, you know, the local stuff. That to me, I
Yes,
think like
or-
smaller mom and pop shops, kind of like, you know, what we
So
have across
there's
the street, but.
Better way to phrase it?
Well, we don't want to
Aside
discourage.
from Sheets.
I think, do you
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, like
You
it's-
shop
it's
at-
just.
local businesses within the town limits?
We don't want to discourage, because every business within the town is viable.
Well, no, for sure. I mean, I'm saying like with regards to the question that the initial that was asking, I think she was looking for a specific, like, do you use, I guess, I mean, it could go back to like our economic development as to whether or not people want local mom and pop shops here rather than like some
Like,
chains.
Do you dine at our local restaurants?
Right.
Do you, and we don't want to get specific because we don't want to call certain people out, but it's do you use the cleaners in town or do you use a service that picks it up, you know?
Right.
That's
So
what I'm saying,
those-
to clearly identify the corporate limits, the town limits. You know, businesses within these town limits, however we do that.
And then make sure it's not skewed with like what Ayusha's saying.
Right.
If you go to Sheets and say yes, but you only go to Sheets.
Yeah. No, we don't want to single out any one business.
Well, so maybe another way of doing it is kind of break the question out into like, which of these types of stores do you frequent most within the town? Like, you know, convenience stores, gas stations, restaurants, right? Stuff like that.
We could do that way, do it more like a ranking system. Or they could put, you know, often, never, you know, come up with a couple of those options in there.
How many businesses do we have in town, just out of curiosity?
Roughly 200, give or take. You have to remember some are also in-home businesses. but
Right.
That doesn't mean that certain people don't use their services as well.
So from the commercial
It's a
business
lot from
type
one square
standpoint,
mile.
Yeah.
wouldn't that potentially help us in future meetings where we're voting on
Type of
whether or not-
businesses?
Yeah, the types of businesses that want to come in, and our residents, citizens, have told us these are what they would like to see, and whatever business is applying may not be part of that, and so that helps with some of those decision-making processes, right?
Yeah, like adding, I was thinking about like, what do you think we're missing in town, I guess? What businesses do we think we're missing? So,
I think that's a
People
good,
might
I
have
think that's a
something
good question in
to
terms of
say.
like that. It's
Business
like,
would you
okay, so
like
what
to
would you
see?
like to see come in?
Yeah.
What type of business rather?
because that's how
Yeah.
we could affect it. Because the other stuff would be okay, but I'm not sure how we would use that real well unless we
Yeah.
could have real.
I think there could be two questions, though. I, just me personally, I like, you know, do you shop, or which businesses do you shop at, or, you know, within our town limits or whatever, but I think it's important to have another one, what type of business would you like to see here? It
That way it can
certainly
help.
gives us an idea of what people are looking for.
How do you guys feel about phrasing that? What type of economic development do you wish to see in the next 5 years, 10 years, and 20?
Mhm.
Give them that option.
I like that.
I do too.
And I think businesses tell us what our citizens want many times, because they
They
do
do.
their own surveys
Yeah.
before they open up, so when they,
Capitalism.
yeah, so I'm a firm believer the businesses that know people need their services are gonna be the ones that are wanting to come into the town, like the funeral home. There'll be people that won't like it, but it's definitely
Probably
needed
use
here.
it one day. Maybe not that one, some.
I think it's good to know what
Yeah.
the citizens want, but I think the businesses will tell us what people want because they sense a need, they want to fill it.
Well, it's,
And the more business
Meladon,
friendly.
that's what they talked about here. They know what businesses people seek, you know, where they eat or whatever, where they buy clothes or whatever. You know, the thing is, because of where we're at in our building, What people would like to see here, I think, is important, but at the same time, I'm not really sure how that's going to drive anything.
I think it's more so just to inform us when those businesses come in as to like, we can reference, okay, our citizens said, they wanted X type of business, like, is this the type of business that, that they would be they'd be wanting? And that's also kind of like, an information that we can give to businesses, I'm sure, we go out and be like, hey, do you want to come into our town? Like, look, like, we have a need. Our citizens have said we have a need for this. I don't know if it's strictly for us or, but that's information that we have that we can talk to businesses about.
It also
Be public.
gives the
Yeah.
planning commission the tools to create a section in your comprehensive plan that you make attractive to certain people who are looking to do economic development. Say, for an example, Prince William County has redone certain parts of their ordinance and comp plan to attract these big cyber, information technology uses. So therefore, when you drive up and down the Parkway or Wellington, you have these industrial areas, and what they've done is they've incentivized through looking at the models of economic development, what do the people want to see, or what type of growth do they want to see in their community. So we could use this information to work on part of our zoning ordinance that allows a specific type of business in. Of course, we have to take that through public hearings, things like that, but it gives us an opportunity to kind of write some of that in and say to the general public, we're creating this incentive, and we're trying to make it attractive to bring what you want into the town. So it sets us up for a lot of good tools that we can implement to start getting those businesses in.
So I think it's important to see what our citizens want and desire, even though economically the driver might be, because like the discussion at the end, should we have drive-throughs or sit-down restaurants? Well, our citizens might say sit-down restaurants, but economic drivers, just because we're located, it might be viable to have the drive-throughs. But that's not what our citizens want. That's what economics drive, just because people are like, hey, look at this off the highway, they could stop. So I guess it gives a voice to the citizens about what they're looking for.
Yes.
And
Would be important.
Also, I think of economic development, our town is really not big enough to support what's here. So a lot of our business comes from the surrounding community, and we need to be mindful of that too. I mean, all the development up and down 15, and so we're in a unique situation. It's not like we're Prince William County where.
Right, we can't expand. So what are we going to do with what we have?
Right.
And should we make it more residential versus commercial? Because if we build about too much commercial, then like I think we were discussing before, are businesses going to survive? Because then you get too many businesses and not enough business, and they fail, and then we've got a lot of open, spaces that are for rent.
Yeah, one thing going back to our ranking system as well as our primary issues, if we can take care of blight and walkability, we also can be an attractive kind of area, and I guess this little tiny node inside of greater Northern Virginia that can offer mom and pops
It's a draw.
a lower,
For sure.
area for rent, things like that, so it can bring them in, and then we become a unique,
Especially within the next 5 years with Amazon coming here,
right.
you're gonna have that for sure.
Because you'll have, if we can clean it up and keep our history alive while still promoting new development, you can have you heard of that historic Haymarket place? People will come out, they'll come for Haymarket Day, things like that. So it keeps us alive, but also gives an opportunity for these small businesses who can't afford Gateway or Trading Square to come into town and start something here. So,
Let me ask you this question.
Okay.
I don't want to go too far down, but I think it's worth asking. Places like Middleburg and Old Town Manassas, especially Old Town Manassas, I mean, they really reinvented themselves over the last 10, 15 years. Is there any way at some point maybe our PC could do a joint work session with their PC just to bounce ideas, because they seem to be pretty far down the road in their development, and sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
I would think definitely there's that opportunity, or even, I can reach out to their planning department and ask, how and when did this change come about, and what did it really take, and it could even be their attorney or somebody who was with them through the long haul, because the planning commission they have now might not be the
Sure.
same. So they might have someone in office that would have that knowledge who could really share with us, here's what it really took. Here's, you know, the blood, sweat, and tears that went into it to get it where it is today. So I would say yes.
The reason I said, because a lot of the things they've done with commercial at the bottom, residential above, they've really kind of been the
And it's a lot
forerunner
of,
from that around here.
Right, it's a lot of lessons learned too. You know, they probably went through certain zoning ordinance changes that turned around and didn't work out the way they planned them to, things like that. So I'll reach out to them as well as, I would even say Warrenton. I think Warrenton and Culpeper have started
Middleburg,
really-
I'll tell you, that's an example of, you look at just Main Street itself, Middleburg, how the quaint shops and everything, it's amazing. Those places make a lot of money out there.
Should go on field trips, go walk around. I haven't been to these places yet, so
Old Town Manassas.
I might make a list and go around.
Middleburg's real nice.
Being here only 6 months, so.
You should, and you should go during the holiday season. A lot of these places do really nice.
And Middleburg has that Christmas thing they do, right?
Yep.
They just did it was it last weekend?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, they sent out
Yeah.
the hunt.
Old Town Manassas has like this open air ice rink. It's real nice.
you
Yeah,
should
so we went
take your
down there
kids.
once, but like I haven't been to Middleburg.
The last thing I'll say about this, and we can move on, I remember when we were debating about Chick-fil-A, there was a lot of angst with the traffic, and it's going to kill other businesses. I mean, that place is thriving, and I haven't heard any other businesses complaining. And I think the traffic, by and large, it's worked itself out, for the most part.
And I haven't heard many complaints. Occasionally, there's a little bit of traffic that comes out onto Washington Street. But it does also seem that when people come in and they see Chick-fil-A's as backed up as it is, they go to McDonald's.
Yep.
Or
Yep.
they go to Chick-fil-A and they stop at CVS. So I think it's also bringing other people into some of our other surrounding businesses because it is convenient.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Sheets.
Or just
get
the
off
Sheets to get
the
gas, and you're like, oh, there's Chick-fil-A or McDonald's, and so
Yeah.
those are always good to pair together. Gas stations and fast food.
Sheets sells a lot of food. I don't,
do.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
it's
good
good,
food,
Yeah.
good food too, I know.
Oh, yeah, you stop, most time you stop, you gotta use the restroom. You're
Yeah.
hungry, you want a sandwich, you're there. All right, so we done with lifestyle?
Yeah, I will work on that section. I'll reword some. I'll give some rankings, items like that. So, public and community services. For those of you who are listening at home, or for those of you here that don't know, we do provide garbage and recycling services. That is the reason that I have this in here.
I thought that was taken care of by the HOA.
No,
No.
No.
Through the town.
the only thing the HOA is doing right now on our two streets is snow removal.
Okay.
That's the only thing they're
Cut the
doing.
grass in the common areas, if you have common areas.
We don't have any common area, it's all, the little bit of common area we have, like where our mailboxes are and everything, the HOA pays one of the residents a few bucks just to go trim it. We're looking at doing something different, just putting rocks down there or something. But the HOA just does all the other common area the HOA takes care of is behind my house out with the stormwater management. They do that mowing, they keep that and everything. But there's no other common areas that homeowners aren't taking care of.
The trash and recycling,
No, I didn't know that.
town.
And then on the back, there are two questions that kind of bled over from the last survey. Since VDOT maintains our roads, there's not much, I guess, other than putting in a service request that we can do here. So I was going to actually mention striking the first two off. I think we can address it further up in lifestyle on more of the crosswalks, that's what we can control. Do we add, do we request to do the studies, things like that for the crosswalks? So I was gonna strike the two unless anyone has any objections.
No, the town doesn't have control of either one of those.
Okay.
Just my opinion, I mean, it's the traffic control measures, that's a VDOT, with input from the town, though. I mean, if there's issues, obviously, as you know, you can bring up issues and everything, and it's gonna be looked at. We did over here at the turning lane. In fact, we're gonna be meeting with you again with my other hat on in our traffic engineering on what we wanna do over there for that turn lane. And the road condition and maintenance of the town has no control over that. It's strictly VDOT. But again, me wearing that hat, being responsible for that issue, obviously when y'all bring issues to my attention, or even citizens, but citizens have another avenue to do that.
So, I will strike those, just as you're talking about that, I thought also our brick sidewalks, we don't need to put it in this survey, but I think as a commission, we need to consider adding that as a capital improvement plan, something in there, budget some more money towards that. Because as you walk, I know some of you who do walk, you notice there's some pretty big divots in our brick sidewalks where it's just settled or roots have grown under and pushed bricks up, so it's not a safe, even walking path anymore.
When it becomes a safety issue, the town's liable.
Right.
So that's important.
And in the future, even going to like stamped concrete or something, because those bricks are literally just
Yeah.
sitting in sand. They're not even concreted in place.
The maintenance,
It's a
the
maintenance
maintenance
nightmare.
on that it's a nightmare. As you know, just us walking and talking, it's expensive.
Yes.
And it takes a while to construct, and then you gotta keep fixing it over and over again, so.
And all the
And
bricks.
The stamped
don't
concrete
match.
usually.
And you
works
don't.
pretty
You,
well.
you look out here where we had the water main break last year, those bricks are a different color. They tried to get them as close as they could, but they're a different color.
You get a lot of snow, especially the ones along Dottie's, probably because we walk that more than any other
Yeah.
stretch. It's falls over. Again, maybe we need to look at a different, just, you can still create the same look with new materials now. that
Well,
we-
the median down here in front of, that's all stamped concrete, and going
Right.
across the bridge, that's stamped concrete. It's not,
You don't have to
real
worry
bricks.
about it.
it's maintenance-free, looks the same. I had that question, what if going over the bridge there, what if one of those bricks break out? How hard is it to replace? I said, it's not, because it's not a brick, it's concrete. So,
The last question I have there for you guys is, are there additional public services you wish were provided to the residents? As some of you know, prior to January 2018, the town provided a building official. I wanted to leave this question in, give them the opportunity. I know in some areas, cities and towns actually provide internet services to their community. Not saying that's something that the town would ever do, but I felt this was an opportunity for them to share with us if they feel like they're missing out on something that maybe other jurisdictions that we've never heard of offer their citizens. And then the next section here, police department questions. So I was asked to include this in the survey just so that since it's going to every resident, we can get some feedback as well on how the police department is perceived to our community. And then, of course, I want to have that catch-all for anybody who wants to write us more paragraphs, essays, pages on their other concerns and questions that they may have. Are there any questions you guys feel like we've missed? Or I will get it so that it nicely fits 2 pages maximum, but that would be 2 pages with not fill in the blank, but circle your answer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that it's very simple. We'll do a couple little testers in town hall with staff and you guys as well, just getting you to fill one out and time yourself. Does it take 5 minutes? Does it take 10? Then maybe we can place at the top a little thing that says, take this 5-minute survey.
sure.
I think you're a lot more likely to do that. We can discuss the possibility of having a option to do it online. We would have to somehow control the entries so you don't get the same person
You can
entering
do
it
that.
10 times. Okay,
Yeah, you can usually control via either IP.
okay.
The only other thing I could think, and this would be for Mr. Shannon, town council question. I mean, we pay I remember when I was on the council a couple cycles ago, we had discussed, one day when we could build the businesses up, potentially removing the town tax off the residents as far as their personal property, because we pay a town tax in addition to the Prince William County tax. So that's probably not in our swim lane here, but that is something that,
It's being looked at. Man, I would, let me rephrase that. We've talked about it unofficially because of all the businesses.
Sure.
There's going to be a lot of money going in there, a
Right.
lot of taxes, a lot of tax revenue. So we've talked about that, whether we can reduce or do away with. We've mentioned it.
Right.
It's not been a formal discussion. I will tell you, as a councilman, that is certainly something I would try to do as much, and I believe the majority of council would, to reduce taxes or eliminate certain taxes. If we have that income coming in from the businesses we have there, what we may end up having across the street, maybe down the street some. For a small town with the businesses we have, and now I'm getting off on a little tangent, but it's important because that's why this fairground has been planned to be an interstate stop from the start. From everything I've read, that's what they've said from the start. People coming off 81 to here, they want us to be the first big place they can stop and come in and spend their money here. So if that all comes to fruition, which we know it's, Melodon's going to build out and all, Crossroads project, we look at these businesses, and that's kind of a hope that we're having, is that we can, and again, we've only discussed it unofficially, but it will be unofficial because I'll bring it up if I'm still on the council, to be able to reduce or eliminate certain taxes
well, I
for our
know,
citizens in
I
town.
know, like you put your hat on with VDOT, I put my real estate hat on, and there are people who will not buy in Haymarket, because when they look at the tax record and go, oh, I'm getting double taxed.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they look at the pay Prince William, and then we're paying town, even though it's not much, but it's still
Something.
$20-30 a month on their mortgage that
Yeah.
could be better spent somewhere else. I'm just saying, down the road, I would think, potentially within 3 to 5 years, that's something with whoever's on the council at that point would be a big
Sure.
thing for our citizens. And I think sometimes people, they don't think about the impact on their own economic development of their own individual homes. The more we build the town, hopefully the burden of some of the things they have to bear. So just, I don't know, it's probably not for this, but I guess I'm planting a seed in my
And
representative over here.
it's been planted because we've, like I said, informally discussed
Sure.
it, so
I like what you're doing, though. I think it will
Yeah.
help.
I agree.
And you, like on these police department, do you have a sense of safety? You could just say, do you feel safe in the town? And like, really, 2 and 3 are kind of the same thing, patrolling your neighborhood, involved in your community.
I will add, these are questions Chief came up with, so I can work with him to, I guess, condense them down, so we're not asking repetitive questions. And then I think I'll do also what we've talked about, adding either a ranking system, or, for the first one, is it 1 through 10, 10 being the best, 1, not
Yeah.
at all.
It's a good idea.
So,
I'm glad to see them in, because the police department is such an important part of this town. And in some cases can be the difference between whether somebody wants to live here or not.
Well, you saw that from what happened here the other night, the aerial
Absolutely, with
shot.
Ethan, with the chief,
I mean, that was, that was a win-win all the way around.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think Chief might want to add something about the speeding in town. I think it's something I notice. And I know they sit there and I can see, they definitely do the patrolling, but I mean, is that something, what did the public feel about speeding in town? Because it's 25 miles per hour, but it definitely don't feel like many people go 25 miles per hour. At least from my perspective. As I've walked with my family, people are,
Do you think asking if they feel like there's others speeding through town? Do they feel like cars
So-
are traveling too fast?
yeah, I don't want to leave the question, but that's part of walkability, because as I've taken my family, again, 9 and younger, and 4 of them, kids, and 2 adults, and we're trying to hold everyone's hand and come across. We get to certain spots where it's not as comfortable as I'd want to be, and people are not paying attention, and there's blind spots when they're turning, and when it's dark out, do we have the right lights in the right spots? So I guess it's part of walkability, but trying to gauge that as well. And also, I think speeding in town is a concern, at least on the main drag. And then as we're talking about adding the crosswalk to the playground, you're going to see a lot more people crossing Washington, and that's something that we can affect through traffic studies and things like how can we.
Yeah, something toward traffic enforcement, what their opinion is or whatever, because that's what it amounts to, is traffic
Yeah.
enforcement. And I love the fact that they shoot radar as often as they do, because word's around. People know that driving through Haymarket, coming through here, you better be doing 25. You're subject to be ticketed. So even though, I will say this, that the one person that had complained about that's how they get our revenue, this or that, for every ticket they give or they issue, they probably give 7 or 8 warnings, if not more. But traffic enforcement is important. It's important to all of us that walk through this town, or even trying to pull out of Fayette with traffic. It's
That left
it's
turn.
important. Yeah. So something I agree with Nick, but I'm so glad that the chief got with you, because I think they need to be a part of this survey. That's a big selling point in this town, as far as I'm concerned, is our police department.
And so
No.
the first question, do you have a sense of safety living in the town? That could maybe be a 2-part question. So like, yes, I do have a sense of safety. Maybe list anything that you think could be improved, right? And maybe that they could hit on your subject or any other things we just haven't thought of, right?
And I know someone mentioned that the first 2 were kind of similar. So when Chief and I talked about this, one of the things that I know he's tried to do since he's joined Haymarket is the community policing, and part of that is walking in the neighborhood or going
Yes.
through the neighborhoods. So the second question, and I can work with him on wording, but that's more along the lines of, do you actively see the officers in a friendly manner patrolling, ensuring your safety? So just that they make pretty much eye contact knowing that they're there.
Yeah.
So I'll work with him on some wording and 2-part on the first one.
I love the fact how the guys, Corey and Jake, when they're riding their bikes, when it's nice, they'll just stop and play with the kids, talk to kids and stuff like that. Community policing is big in this town. Chief Lands, he spearheads that, and our officers are great about that, so.
Do you guys have any other questions or thoughts that you want to add to the survey?
Do we want to ask anything about town hall? Shelley says nope. No, I'm just wondering,
It's a call, Shelley or Emily?
yeah, it's been recorded. I'm just kidding. I don't know if we, do they, I don't know, do we need to ask anything about the town hall? I mean, we have a mayor, we have a council, we have a staff. Do we need to ask anything about that or not?
Do you know where
I don't know. Pardon me?
Yeah,
Do you know
town
do
hall's
you know the
located.
address of town hall?
Yeah.
I know where it is, yeah.
Do you know where town, we don't have to get into personnel, but, yeah, I mean, that may sound kind of simple, but it's amazing how many people don't know town hall's right here. It's amazing how many people think the police station is still up there, because I get that question.
One thing, if you guys want to, maybe take everything we've discussed tonight and the old survey questions and just give it some thought on what you want to see happen in the town, and then next week I'll have another draft. We can add any more
Okay.
little changes, and then that way it'll be ready to go out, let's say January's meeting. Does that work for everyone?
Yeah.
Will get us through the holiday, and so nobody can say they missed it in the mail, and we'll go ahead and get it out.
I'll say I missed in the mail.
You can look for it.
Because if this is one opportunity for the town to talk to the citizens, we might want to consider other, not just planning purposes, you know? I mean, there could be other, within reason, right? Because we can't go too long like we were talking about, but we
Right.
condense it down. And maybe there's a few other questions from maybe the Architectural Review Board, I don't know. Or something, just town general questions. The town council might want to find one or two questions that are important to them, just so we hit the citizens one time. And hopefully we could do this every year, like every January. Because I think we also get an understanding, maybe there is a higher turnover here too. You know, maybe there's some, that people are here to stay, and there's 20, 30% or turnover every year because they're renters, I don't know.
I think that might be a good question to ask, actually, within,
Are you renting or own
Yeah.
property?
yeah. Or is that not?
I don't think that's a good question to ask.
I guess it doesn't really matter, I guess, in any way, because whether or not you're part of the community, it doesn't really matter whether you're renting or owning.
I think some people may view that if you're a renter, you're a second-class citizen, I
Yes,
think.
Yeah.
that's a
Okay.
way, yeah.
Yeah, no,
We'd hate for them to feel any less or,
right, no, for sure.
you know, uncomfortable answering the question when really
Sure.
it shouldn't matter. But I do also see where you're going with that. It's also.
Did we ask, sorry to interrupt, like how long, did we strike that one? Maybe it could be important to say, how long do you plan on living in Haymarket? Because that could also give you an idea of, for, you know, the longevity. I mean, because honestly, I think if I was renting, I was here for, you know, again, military, we move every 2 years. I bought property here, so then I'm like, I plan on keeping it. I may come back here later on after, and I do plan on renting it out to somebody that, you know, I'll be invested in the town, but if I was just a renter, I might have different feelings. So are you planning on staying 5, 10 years? Is this going to be your place
Yeah.
forever, you know? I mean, I don't know how to word that properly, I guess, but and get an idea if this is just a quick stop, or is this going to be your town helps us.
Well, I can tell you, most people when they get retirement age don't live here. They move
Further out.
straight across the board, because we have all that as real estate agents, the data. I mean,
And I can pull a good
Oh, I
amount
guess
of
that's true.
data on the Census Bureau
Yeah.
as well for demographics of our area.
I could pull every home in here. I mean, it's all public record.
Yeah.
I could tell you every rented property in the town. It's all real estate documents. I can tell you from living here, not to have a quorum, but most people don't retire here. They may keep their home, but then it becomes a rental unit just because of taxes. Northern Virginia as a whole, it's a mass exodus when people get to retirement age, for most people, not everybody. But that's where I think taxes are a
Yeah, it could be
huge
attractive
component.
But that's the thing, Loudon. Loudon is a beautiful, one of the most beautiful counties in the state, but they're so highly taxed. Even though it's growing out there like crazy, except the western part of the county, taxes out there are higher than they are anywhere.
Well, it's because they build a lot more schools, but they build smaller schools
Yeah.
to keep the population down, so they need more schools and.
In the western part of the county, they're just not, I know the county board of supervisors, they're just not letting people sell their farms and sublease, and they're not changing their zones. They're keeping it a rural area. That's what they want in the western part of the county. So, this is a good start, Emily.
And what about, the only thing, last thing, and I won't make more comment, police department, what about fire and rescue? Because that's a huge component. Do you feel,
So, of course, we don't have fire.
I know we don't
rescue in
have it.
town.
We got a firehouse.
We just have a firehouse.
It
don't-
don't,
Start up
doors
a
don't
volunteer
open, but.
Start up a volunteer unit again. I certainly can ask the questions. I'll have to give some thought to what the right question is.
right?
Since we don't have it in town, but I can work with Chief and see if he feels it's necessary. Again, I don't know that it's anything that we, as a whole town, council included, can change.
Right.
So, we can pass
Yeah.
information along, but let me talk with Chief and see how he feels.
I like what you did. I appreciate the time you put into it, and thank you for not giving us what they did in 2006.
You are welcome. I will have a draft for you guys on the 17th, and we will plan to get it out January 14th, that week in the mail. If you guys have any questions, if you think of anything, email me. I'm happy to add to it. If you guys want me to look up other citizen surveys in other jurisdictions, towns, let me know, and we can go from there.
I do have one question, and I'll shut up so we can get out of here, but these surveys are gonna be mailed out?
Yes. And
How, are they gonna be controlled by number, by
Yes.
barcode or something?
So I think what we're gonna do is give each survey an individual number.
Okay,
So that when it comes back in, once that.
you log it by survey number, okay, because otherwise, you know what's gonna happen, so,
We'll get copies
yeah,
of surveys.
yeah.
And yes, so that's how I'm
Okay.
gonna plan to keep it all sorted, and then I'll try to get together a whole, we'll set a date. I think giving people a month to get it done is ample time. I mean, do you guys feel you need longer or less time?
I think 30 days is fine.
Okay, and then we'll kind of start compiling the results. We can go through them together in a work session, and then I think by April, we should consider doing our first public work session where we bring the public in, we invite them for a charrette or a workshop, and we can even see about getting a consultant to come in and run one, where we get them to verbally state, you know, here's some of the things they want to see in town, and you can do really fun exercises where you bring artists in and like they draw out everything that the citizens are saying while you guys are engaging. So then it's a lot more, I guess, a better discussion.
Sure.
So we can look into those things for late spring.
I think a real important component to this is we're submitting your input, but a lot of times people don't fill these out because they really don't feel people really care. They're just doing it. I think if we took and compiled the information and then did another mailing, here's what we've heard from you as a citizen.
Yeah.
I think that would
Yeah.
even maybe go further than the survey itself, because we solicited your input, we compiled it, and here's what you said.
Okay.
I
If you
think
mentioned
that's a
that-
huge component of that.
Good point.
And if you mention that on the actual survey, someone might want to fill it out, they're like, oh, I'm going to get results back in a month, maybe.
Within 90 days, you will get the results of the town survey.
Mhm.
Because how many times you get a survey, but you never get something mailed, here's what the survey said?
Yep.
Rarely.
I agree, good point. That's why you're the chair.
Yeah. I got my first glasses, so some of y'all look blurry. I'm still looking these freelance jobbers how to see. So if I keep doing this, it's just so I can see you. All right, anything else before we wrap it up? I think it was productive, and we're going to meet next Monday, and we'll have the public hearing, you said, on the old bank building. Okay.
And we'll, at next Monday's meeting, we can set another work session date for the new year.
And speaking of next Monday, I'm gonna be out of town,
Okay.
sorry.
Will everyone else be in attendance so we have a quorum?
Mhm. Be here.
I'll be
Okay.
here.
And that'll be regular time, 7 o'clock.
All right,
Need to have a way for people to join these meetings remotely.
Up on the internet and watch it when you're traveling.
Well,
If you're not,
to watch it, but like, I need like a.
yeah, to
terminal
participate, yeah.
Virtual attorney.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion that we adjourn this work session.
We have a second. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Good night. Emily, thank you.